Welcome to Frequently Speaking. This is your host, Maxwellness. Now, here on this podcast, we're going to start to break down words that we speak outwardly and how their vibrations create what we frequently see. Now, in today's episode, we're going to delve into Mountain of a Man. Welcome to another episode of Frequently Speaking. It's your host, Maxwellness, and you already know here on Frequently Speaking what we do. Now today, it's going to be all about the men. Guys, this is a paramount moment. When we connect and we're coming closer to our center, what is it truly that we may feel that we are missing? In Mountain of a Man, we're going to discuss how the ritualizing of the view of the body and creating ceremony within, how men can connect to their body and their true nature. We're also going to be defining ceremony, cultivating how we see through this lens of sanctity without sacrifice. We're also going to unravel ritual and routine, the shifting, the systemization of the quantity and routine valued thinking to the quality of ritual way of being. I wanted to share this episode and these couple key points because within doing men's work, within creating men's retreats and working so much around the masculinity and also ushering in this divine sense of masculinity in this new age, these are a few key factors that I've learned from being within the feminine, as well as expressing through this own sacredness of masculinity. And as someone that has looked deep into their own level of masculinity, looked deeply into their own shadows of the way that masculinity has been paving the path of my life, and also how it's been being expressed through me culturally, societally, ritualistically. This has been something that I have taken the responsibility of shifting and changing, and life, God, nature has led me into many different mountains, many different jungles across the world, mainly in Central and South America, to really give myself a different look into what masculinity is, what femininity is, how we can honor it, and also how as men we can come back to that mountain and to that maloca within. So let's dive deep into this great understanding of how we actually connect and start to build ceremony, ritual, and a new rhythm of how we are mountains of men. So guys, I always like to start with a question. But I really want to ask a personal question and really sit down and think about this and meditate on it. What is the relation to your body? Like seriously, not just, the body is a temple, but where is the sacredness in how you go about your daily life? Do you just think of it as a vessel that's meant to get her done, or a finely oiled machine? The things we do each day and how we bring things to manifest by picking things up and putting them down are done by support of our body. It's the supporting mechanism we've been gifted as we walk this planet in this time and place, and we choose it to house the soul that we are. And if we learn ancient knowledge and bring in ancient wisdom, the sense of soul, S-O-L, the sense of sun, S-U-N, and the sense of S-O-N, sun, is actually all the same ideology of the same presence. When we look into ancient wisdom from Egypt, ancient wisdom through Kemet, we learn these ancient teachings that when they spoke of this, and when you get into South America and their ancient ways of knowledge, it translates to soul, but they connect the sun with God consciousness, meaning the masculinity. Now, we're not going to touch on, Mother Earth, Pachamama, Isis, these things. But when you have that deep inner knowing and you unlock that wisdom of really seeing how your body is a vessel for this light consciousness, which is the light soul, the light sun, and now you have given it the personality of a son because you were birthed by a mother, you were birthed by a womb man. Now we start to develop this relationship with our body. We develop a different type of reverence for the vessel that carries this light. And it's the same vessel that what I was explaining in the beginning is connecting with your feminine, connecting with that feminine side of really seeing that Mother Earth is what is carrying you. So how can we actually build a relationship? How can we treat our mothers, daughters, wives, sisters with that level of reverence if we have yet to make that connection and build that connection with our body, because we simply see it as a well-oiled machine or a mechanism just to get things done, or this machine to look good and bring things in. That's where we shift that level of relativity or relation, and that build that relationship to start giving it direction. Now, whether we judge it and say it's too fat, it's too slim, not athletic enough, or not hairy enough, is all the illusion of the mind set against itself. That's the war within. The truth is, it's of the earth. And just like the mountains that run along her body, we are the immovable placements that shape the world. The power is also a privilege in that we must not allow ourselves to get drunk off that power of the impact that this body can make. We must remember as a man, meaning mind, to conquer and control the mind, to praise the body. This is the true test. This is coming into kingship through sonship. We must first learn to be a son. Really listen to that. In order to be a son, S-O-N, you have to have reverence for that father, for that mother. So seeing how that same S-O-N is down here as a personality of this light, of this higher being, to see that its body is holding that S-U-N, you have to treat it as that of the mother, as the house of our soul, as the maloca bestowed to us by our maker. So if you don't know what a maloca is a form of a temple. And I'm going to go into this a little bit deeper as we go into this podcast. But these are and this is actually not even the original name. This is a derived name to kind of westernize it a little bit, but so that people can make a little bit more reference. But in Central and South America, they have temples, just like in the Middle East, they have, mosques. In Europe, they have churches. In India, they have temples. All of these different things are just another name for a holy house. So in Central and South America, they have something called malocas. And this is what you learn when you go deep into the jungle, when you go deep into the forest. You start to really understand what maloca means when you feel the presence of this house that is built. Now, yes, it is a vessel. Yes, it is a container, but it's the same relation to your body. Let's go back into this idea, right? Now, this idea is to show us time and time again in our daily life, but it may not look as you may think. It could show up as a bag of Doritos or a TV remote, even a massage in Thailand. Point is, are you missing more shots than you're making at remembering your sanctity? When we start taking advantage of the body, feeding it bullshit, treating it with bullshit, treating it disrespectfully, taking our levels of our energy. This goes into the chakra systems. This goes into biological systems. And when I speak about the body on this way, we're going to peel back some of the layers, but just know that I'm speaking about it holistically. A bag of Doritos is going to infiltrate your integrity on a biological level. That also seeps down subtly into your mental brain. It starts to change the way that you think. It starts to change your chemistry. It starts to change your endocrine system. Like, I'm not going to go into the science, but this stuff is proven. But what we see on the outside, because that's where we're living, is we see a bag of Doritos. We see that extra Coca-Cola. We see that extra bottle of tequila, whatever it may be. Same thing with the TV remote. And then these excessive, sexualizing of your massages in Thailand, or, going out to the club and like picking up women. It's like, exactly what is happening. So how do you bring the sacredness back to that temple? How do you bring the sanctity back to that maloca? You wouldn't do that if you were in a church. You wouldn't do that if you were in a mosque. You wouldn't do that if you were in a temple. So why is it that we have given up our sacredness to do that and act that way and put those things into our temple? And also, how do we cleanse it? Now, you may not feel that you are connected to Mother Earth, or may know that you are and don't quite understand how. That's fine. It's your relationship to build. Now, I hope in this piece here, there can be an opening to a way to bridge, develop, and cultivate that relationship with her, entering this maloca that is your body. Developing an elemental connection to the ways a mountain is and its presence in the world. This is the true meaning behind this talk here. Now, as well as ritualizing the routines that may have been set before you without your discernment as to if you are to carry out the ceremony of life that you're experiencing. Now, I get it. We as men really haven't had rites of passages set. And this is why I developed Telos, a brotherhood of men to actually find centered selves without being self-centered, to start to create a purposed view and create those meaning, bringing ritualization, bringing ceremony back to our routines, because so much so how our rites of passages have been unraveled and bound up and chained is outside of what you've been taught. The discernment that you've had that, eating Doritos over Whole Foods is more important, that is a level of discernment. When you're presented with something that is in your life, you don't really discern what is actually true to you, what is actually your soul calling, what is actually pertinent and efficient for your body. So we start making those choices, and those choices start to turn into our routines. So that routine that may have been set before you now, because those rites of passages have been broken, that has deteriorated your discernment. Now, if you're looking to carry out this ceremony and bring in that connection to your life and connection to those levels of your body, to start ritualizing those routines and build a more intimate connection with your temple, that's going to be the life that you're going to experience. Now, when you start doing this in hopes to shift the ways that you see the body for its true sacredness and invite in a reclamation of what is truly divine presence, this I see as a true connection to the nature of connecting to being a mountain of a man. Now, how do we begin to see sanctity? Yes, we have these deep, internal, elemental, and spiritual aspects. But what actually are the parts we are working with? We have this physical connection to the body as the mountain that's made of earth, and this aspect of our internal state as the maloca and its sacredness. So how do you see these expressed in real time? When I began to expand my relationship with the wisdom of different tribes, religions, and ways of life, I soon came to realize this was all a reflected connection of me and my relationship with how I viewed sanctity within as a man. I began to notice shifts in the ways I saw exercise, nutrition, people, and my personal principles. For example, exercise became an intimate conversation with my body within the movement practice, from training athletes, house moms, and even with guys in prison. There were so many ways to move, and it's about intentionally conversing with our own individual body. Now, this is something that developed because of what brought me into it. You know, I used to be really overweight, and I was struggling with food and addiction and alcohol and all these different things. And exercise became a way to connect with the body. So as I started to deeply learn and started to reflect, and what do they say? Reflection is hindsight, or hindsight is 20/20. There you go. This started to come in a lot clearer of how am I actually expressing? How am I speaking about movement? How am I speaking about exercise to an athlete that they only want to be told A to B to C to D? How do I explain and express exercise to a house mom that wants to really deepen the relationship with her body, but not cognitively, more emotionally, because cognitively her mind is taken up by so many tasks and things that she needs to do to take care of the kids? And also even in prison, how do you get into a space of exercise and movement to chip and chisel out the ego that is present, but also deal with the emotional confines of anger, of frustration, of hypervigilance, of narcissism, all of these different things. So navigating those emotional spaces were just expressions into the physical reality, which was a physical environment. So this is what actually builds our relationships. And this is something that goes on a lot deeper on a spiritual level that I don't want to get into right now. But I'll just say this. If you're a guy with a no pain, no gain mentality, that's going to be the subtle message that you're sending to your body as you exercise. There's no pain, there's no gain. I equate gaining, I equate growth with pain and suffering. Great, I get it. That in a way makes sense, but that's a very linear sense of mentality. If you think about growing in your relationship or growing with your business, do you think about this with the same mentality of no pain, no gain? Do you need to have your girlfriend or your partner crying and going through the stress and the struggle for you guys to grow? Do you have to lose a bunch of your money and never really get like a really inside, like deep look of what your business actually looks like before you actually grow and gain? I don't personally believe that that's the best route. Is it a route? Absolutely. Sure, you can 100% create that with that mentality. But is that going to deepen your intimacy in your relationship, in your business? You start thinking, like, I need to be in pain to progress. If your mind is fixed on, I need to get rid of this fat, your intention will be set on the dislike and the fat, rather than focusing on positively charging the body towards the performance and weight improvement. That's the key difference of discernment and masculinity, is where we place our light. Where do we shed our light on? Or have we all just been fixated on this routine of, I need to get rid of this fat. I got to lose this weight. I need to, be better. I need to be. And you start placing that intention, placing that light on the dislike and the thing that you want to eradicate. So then you start creating pain, and you're conquering and you're conquering and you're conquering. And that isn't what masculinity is about. I believe that conscious, that soul, that true light, that God consciousness is a loving light. And it's sacred. So that sanctity of your positive nature is comprised by the ill thoughts that you start to create. Now, you may know this already, But how is it practiced? I think as men, a lot of us get into that ego of, oh, I know. But how is it practiced? The earth that is your body is scientifically made of matter. Now, if you are eating and drinking artificial and nutrient deficient foods, how is that any different than polluting a country? How is that any different than bombing a tribe? How is that any different than enslaving a whole community? How do you expect to be authentic and nurtured if these negative thoughts of change and judgment are allowed within your mind, are targeted at yourself? How is that different than two countries in war over opposing religions, economy, or resources? What is the difference? Do you see what I mean? Let's shift this a little bit and go into mountain, man. As a man, we come to identify with the material world, right? We see the money that we attain. We see the cars. We see all the accomplishments, the accolades, all of these things. And as men, we embody the state of the mountain, that which holds on to the memories of the Mother Earth. As men, we hold steady, weathering the times, conditions, emotions, and situations. Remaining reliable, taught to be taught, we hold on with the strength of 1,000 men. And we do this so that others may not feel or bear the weight that we have on us and in us. The rigid stone, hard as steel, and holder of all structures. We as men are mountains. You may not understand or feel the presence of a mountain unless you visit an actual mountain. If you haven't traveled to Central, South America, India, Africa, to actually experience what it is, the majesty of a mountain, then I truly don't know if you can actually connect to that presence within. And this is more so of an invitation of seeing the ways that you've been taught, seeing the different relationships that we have within, connecting to that material version of us in the world. As I sat in one of the jungles in South America, I heard an elder speak about the relationship between the clouds and the mountain. And he spoke of the mountain in a way of this masculine presence of these grandfathers, the apus. And he spoke of them as holding on, like being as what we, and I'm saying this in correlation to our body and what we can kind of understand if you didn't really experience that full story. He spoke of it as the body, but also the masculine aspect of the body to hold on to this weight. As the Mother Earth filters through, she's more, fluid and water and the rain and the seas and the rivers and all of these different things. And she filters things through. She moves the emotions, she moves the pain, she moves the pollution and, filters out the dirt and the cancerous things that, humans and smoke and all this stuff, right? But the mountains remain true. They remain solid. They hold the vibrations in the matter. They don't move at all. They just hold and receive. And it's kind of like how men are in that way. So in this deeper ancestral understanding, what was really conveyed is the wisdom that our body has. And in the sense of the wisdom that the mind has, and mind being man. So to really understand the presence of that mountain that is within, and how those actions and those behaviors are portrayed and reflected into you, why you hold on to these things, why you remain immovable, why you stay so rigid, it's because it's in your nature. But there's also a way of connecting to that and building that intimacy with that relationship, to that presence of the mountain, so that you can bring it into the man, because also in correlation to the body has memories as well, just as much as the mind and the brain does. So when we talk about somatics, there is a presence of our body and how it stores things, so that mentally we may feel like we forgot. We can create up a bunch of blocks and barriers and labyrinths and safe boxes and to bury those thoughts, but our body still remembers. That is in a sense the Mother Earth, but paradoxically it's also the masculine mountain. Now, when we see and make that connection to the body, when we see and make that connection and bring that presence and bridge it from that mountain to that man, we start to see it for the sacredness and that maloca that is within. Now, to assume the identity of the maloca is an introduction to the memories of what is within, an invitation to open up to our ancestral roots. It's a place where we come into and sit, build a fire, and listen. It's an intimate connection and embrace to create. Now, a maloca is erected from that which Mother Earth has given. Palm leaves, wood, bamboo, vines, water, and soil. Crafted in the formation to reflect the mountain and its structure, but spacious within. When you step into a maloca, you see the different designs, you see the different structures that it's created, but you can also see the nature and the tradition that it's built and erected within. But as you step into it, there's nothing in there. It's not like a house where you have couches and paintings and plants and lamps and all these different things. It's just you. You bring the wood in to build a fire. You bring your thoughts in to cleanse them. You bring in anything that may be within to sit and listen in that silence. You allow those things to reverberate. You sit with the fire to cleanse, to transform. Whatever sanctity is created within that ceremony, and you give it to the smoke. You give it to that humido sagrado, that sacred smoke, so that it may rise up and go into the roof and it seeps out. But this is also something that provides shelter. It provides a safe space, which is that reflection of what your temple could and should be. Now, expressing that needed nature between mountain, man, and Mother Earth, it's alit with a fire within. Spirit enters the maloca to allow for the echoes to resonate and give voice to those memories held tight by the rock formation. The mountains watch as the maloca speaks. As a man, we create space within so that these deep sacred teachings, pains, tears, and songs are given permission. As men, we construct malocas to open and ask for forgiveness. This brings ceremony. This brings ceremony to the recognition and the acknowledgement of the mountain that is a man, the man that is a maloca. You're acknowledging these connections, you're acknowledging these relationships. This becomes the ceremony. The more you ritualize this, the more you make it routine, this brings that intimacy to create ritual. Now, the consecration of this maloca is done only after the construction. It's the ceremony that comes with the routine of ritual. The consistent revisiting of the maloca and lighting the fire, whether it be to listen or gather, to speak. It's the continuance of the visit that is what matters. The mountain is a phrase of a man in his ways, the form of his devotion to his identity and the keeper of all things sacred, his or not. The mountain is possessive. It's not yours, the ancestor whispers. If it's not mine, then whose is it? Who am I? The protector of all things in the future, past and present, speaks through tense fingers and grinding teeth. As men, we protect that which we feel is meant. It is a transcended judgment into discernment that allows him to be blessed. Taking that into consideration, this relationship of building between what it is you have constructed as a man and what your nature has constructed as the mountain. This is where we can start to look at our behaviors, look at our rituals, look at our routine, and start to shift. Start to consecrate the things that we do, the exercise that we make, the relationship with our sisters, the relationship with our daughters. All of these different relationships are a representation and a reflection of the man that is a mountain. How do we make a maloca? Just as I spoke about the construction of the maloca, this invitation to construct a maloca in his name, a portal to spiral those memories, those things he holds on to enter into a forgiving space. A maloca consecrated in his grandfather's name. A tradition passed on that he now drinks in, nourishing, accepting, forming as his mother holds his skin. As a man, we must choose to do this. To have the courage, strength, and will to climb the mountain, stretch his bounds, walk into the maloca and drop to his knees ready to release. To reach into the roots that were never his seeds. To trust in the structure that holds him as the maloca. To the presence of the mother as she whispers and his father as he holds him. This too shall pass, reminding him that the memories that he has, the tension of his hands, is no longer his. To let go and assure him that the path that he walked with that message, that mission, holding that heavy package all this way, is now completed. All he need do is lighten up. Better said than done, says the sun in the firelit maloca. But what he doesn't know is that what he holds on to is an echo of what was already done. With the ill-informed knowledge that he is preventing it from happening. Protector of the world as a proud son and an anchor holding on. In this short story, this is really a story that is about each man. As we hold on to the things. And yes, it is in our nature, but it's also remembering how to breathe. Remembering how to step into that maloca, commune with our mother, commune with our father, and really be vulnerable. Come back into that space to create that ceremony, to open up, release those memories, those tensions, those things that are no longer serving. How do we actually give to the fire? Now, this only comes with practice. It only comes with experience. So I ask you, when was the last time you sat in front of a fire? When was the last time you sat in front of a fire and just stared into the fire? Gave everything, truly opened your heart, truly opened your mind, truly opened your body to the warmth of the fire, to burn those seemingly sins away, to burn that tension away, to truly give it up to that unconditional love, to what is your nature. Now, what he doesn't know is that he holds on to this echo. And when I speak about things that are already done, it's speaking about the past. Most likely, if you're holding on to things, if you're holding on to an old relationship, an old habit, an old behavior, an old thought, whatever it may be, and you're holding that in the present moment, it was already done. It's just that information, that knowledge, is the thing that's perpetuating it. You're telling yourself you need to hold on to it because you are this protector. You are this anchor holding on to it. And if you let go of it, then you don't trust the feminine to filter it. You don't trust that unconditional love to move it. You don't, not move it, but accept it. You don't trust that fire to burn it and transform it. You don't trust your nature. Now, I get it. To let go is no easy feat and looks different for you and me. It is the deteriorating of the identity that is synonymous to the knee. The tension in the jaw as the tension in the chain that holds on. It takes the darkness and rebirth from an earth womb, the heat of 22 fire-wielding stones, sweat pulled from his body in a matter of minutes, and the air filled with 13 prayers for spirit to pry the package from his tightly wound body. All 300 pounds of him drops to the brittle knees that kept him going for so long. Grandfather speaks. Rest, son. I'm proud of you. You're exhausted. The hands of a healer, seeming to work a miracle, but really guiding the permission to the body to stop reaching for the identity of the anchor on the ground. It's gone now. No longer weighing him down. Now, you may connect to this. You may be like, what the hell does any of this mean? What is 22 fire-wielding stones? What's it, 13 prayers? My knees are pretty good. But this story comes from a ceremony about a year and a half ago. This huge guy, about 300 pounds, yeah. We were in Sweat Lodge, and this is something where we go into a small maloca of some sort. Without going into all the details, it's pretty much where you sweat everything out and you pray. You're going back into the womb of the mother. And for the fire keeper, as you're outside, there are different ways to hold temazcal or Sweat Lodge. But with this one, we particularly used 22 stones. So what it is, you place the stones into a fire pit, and the fire is outside, and as the ceremony is going on and everybody is in the temazcal and it's all covered up and they're praying and sweating, there's one person that's outside that brings in the stones. And these stones represent the grandmothers. And with each of them, they are holding the fire. They're holding the alchemy. Because once they are brought into the lodge, once they are brought into that small little maloca, it's then that there's water thrown on them so that it creates steam. So there's this process of alchemy. And it starts to get really, really hot. And everybody in there is sweating, and we're all sweating together. And that water that was placed on the stones, sent into the alchemy of steam, permeating into our bodies, transitioning our bodies to produce water and pull out the toxins, pull out the prayers, pull out the pain, the tension, the discomfort, all of those things within our sweat to be offered down into earth. This is what he was experiencing. And in this, there were so many things that was a reminder of what he was holding on to, how exhausted he was, what the pain that he had come to that maloca, to that temazcal, to that ceremony to really truly release. But it wasn't until the end, until he came out of the temazcal, back into the sun, out of the darkness, that he realized that that pain in his knees, that the pain in his body, all 300 pounds of him, was just things that he was holding on to. In this ceremony with grandfather, and the holding of the womb in that space became a healing and transformative experience for him to actually let go, to see that he was being an anchor, to follow that chain all the way down that may have been stuck and wedged inside of a rock that was keeping his ship from moving. He had to climb all the way down and follow that trail of that chain all the way down to the depths and unhinge that anchor to stop being that, to really truly surrender, to really rest into that grandfather and that grandmother and let go. To let go of that package that was being held from his ancestors from way back when, having these battles and these wars with different indigenous tribes and the Native Americans. And this is what we carry around in our body. This is what memories are stored within these mountains. So I say that to say, look into your own fire, step into your own temescal, practice these ceremonies in this way of diving in deep to see what is truly there that you're holding on to. Because as men, we forget the body is dense and slow. As mountains, we remember the echoes that grow. And as malocas, we understand through ceremony that into the light of the fire, it all is let go. You may be asking, okay, you hear about the different ceremonies. Maybe you're thinking, plant medicines. Maybe you're thinking rituals, candles, and pentagrams, and sand all around you, whatever it may be. But ceremony isn't everything. Your life is a ceremony. It's your relationship to it. But to enter ceremony, there's one thing that you need to have: honor. There's a great deal of sacrifice of our physical body to withstand, push on, and do all that you can. Deteriorated knees form decades of death. Compressed lumbar discs for each tragedy and bruised witness. Scarred skin from the guarding of all suffering siblings, all to be the mountain holding the memories. The remembering of Mother Earth and all her forgiving, sacrificing the physical body to preserve the sanctity, holding on to all the things that are not really his because he can. Man suffering from the memories passed down within the winds and the blood beneath his skin. Now, how does he shift the sacredness of the honor of sacrificing the finite body that embodied suffering into the relief through sanctity? As we go through life, we experience all these individual aspects. We have the inherent memories of remembering what happened to us when we were a teen, what happened to us when we were an adolescent, a toddler, a child, all of these different things in our individual life. But that sacrifice that we've chose, as men, we've seen that there's an honor in sacrificing. There's an honor in sacrificing my body because it can take it. I want to build a big, strong, tough body to take the bruises, take the hits from protecting my little brother, from protecting my little sister, from protecting my mother from that abusive father. You see all the sacrifice that you had to take from giving up your dreams and, creating a job that would suffice your father or your mother's expectations or standards of you. Whatever sacrifice that you had to make with this finite body and your individual experience that allowed you to embody that suffering. But where do we shift into that sanctity to find the sacredness that is behind that? From being that sacrificial archetype into finding the sacredness of our divine nature. It comes down to the practice of your relationship of honor. To really look at and shine the light of certainty and truly disembody that sacrificial suffering. This is where we find our sanctity. This is where we find the sacredness in the things that we do on a daily. Do you see the sense of this routine? Do you see the difference between ritual It's that internal tuning and composure that you have of what is allowed within the maloca or temple is what preserves the sanctity and respect within. Now, I don't know about you, but the way I was raised is like, you walk into somebody's house, you take off your shoes. The energetic understanding behind that was, you know, these women, and these are who I was taught by, these, you know, these older, what you would call abuelas, or like grandmothers or mothers, that would tell you, you know, like, you're bringing the streets in, you know, leave your shit at the door. You know, if you are walking outside and you stomping around and all this shit, don't walk there and bring that into my house. Like, my house is clean, my house is sacred, my house is sanctified in that way. So it's the same way that you start to grow and start to see the ritual of taking off your shoes within your own temple. Before I'm about to, you know, stuff something in my mouth, whether it be another beer or a bag of chips or a fucking sweet cake, or what do they call them, oatmeal cream pies, whatever it is that you're eating or you're stuffing in your face, like, to sit with that feeling of, am I disrespecting my body as I put this in here? Am I disrespecting my body when I'm about to do that next line? Am I disrespecting my body when I'm about to, you know, pay this woman $40 for this act that's about to be done? Am I truly disrespecting my temple by allowing these things in, and also the things that I'm giving out? You know what I mean? And these are the aspects where it breaks down the integrity. And if you know anything about woodworking, if you've ever really chopped or like broke anything down and transformed anything, it's by those small incremental compounding movements. It's like when you ever watch termites tear down a full log. It can be a 600-pound log and it'll be gone in days, because each little termite takes a chip at the integrity. It's not about breaking through the whole thing and just in one day you're going to be sanctified and holy and all of these different things. It's the incremental value that you've taken from when you were a child. Even if you want to go into the energetic and spiritual, the spiritual and energetic baggage that has come along with that integrity to bridge back that connection that you feel is disconnected from that sacredness to that mountain. It's that integrity that chips away, the same chip that you put in, you know, consistently in your mouth through the years. You have to either halfway meet that or meet it doubly. So if I've eaten 10,000 chips over the last year, I need to eat at least 5,000 pieces of vegetables or fruits. Or if I want to be really integral, double that. Let's go 20. Why not? Because that's how I need to really clean this. And there's also something about fasting that comes into this play in the physical body that I take into practice, right? It's like something came through in a ceremony about this, and I really saw and envisioned my body as this temple. And the fasting was really like, even though I'm consistently like, because I fast every 30 days, every 28 days for the full moon cycle, right? So during that time when I'm eating, doing everything that I want, I'm just kind of, you know, doing my prayers, doing all those things. It's kind of like lighting incense in your house or lighting candles in your house. All that soot and that smoke, like you might be there present with, and, you know, feeling it and smelling it, and it all smells great and blah, 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 but we don't really remember that there's smoke that's being lifted into the ceiling. And after all of those years and all that remnants and that residue gets left on the ceiling and on the walls, and we don't clean the walls. So the fasting is kind of like that period of when I stop burning the candles, stop doing my prayer, I close the doors down, and I wash the whole temple from top to bottom. The walls, the ceilings, everything. Get all those things off. It's not in a sense of, oh, it's dirty. It's that this comes with it. I love each act of eating, and I trust each act of eating, and I honor it. But to find that level of sacredness within it, you start to clean out of relief. You're not cleaning out of, oh my God, this is so disgusting. I need to get rid of this fat, and I need to get rid of this residue, and I need to get rid of all these. You made those decisions. Now you're implying this judgment on yourself. And that's the part of the suffering. We create that honest suffering and we start whipping ourselves like these ascetics. That's not the sanctity in it. Now, this when I'm speaking about this internal composure, right? It's about how we see respect within ourselves. Now, this is something else to meditate on. Like, sit down and really ask yourself, how do you truly respect yourself? And does that reflect in your actions? So, like, when I had begun to really look and fortify my principles, like, I started to really look at them, get them down on paper, and I started to fortify them, like, meaning connect to a feeling about these actual principles and their surrounding values. I began to see so many things in my life pop up for me to throw into the flame. Like, seriously, there was these things that I was valuing, and I realized things that I wasn't really valuing, that I thought I was, but really connecting those principles to those values, like, these opportunities showed me how the ways in which my past was within my present, and how they were resonating with these new frequencies of these set principles. So in a way, my maloca didn't have the feel of a maloca. So for example, harmony is a principle of mine. Despite your definition of it, there's my definition of it. And I root into the being of harmonious walks of life and intend to express that in the ways that I am throughout life. Now, I noticed that as I began to embody this principle deeper, I saw how my maloca was disharmonious with those that walked into it, whether it be partners, whether it be my family, associates, whatever it was. It was not creating the welcoming and peacefulness that was connected and valued with as harmony. So my true definition of what I feel harmony is, not what my mind created of what I learned from all the information and the knowledge that I got from outside. The feeling of what harmony actually truly is to me was creating that, and it was disharmonious from what the thought or that definition, because that's what I was seeing, what that was coming into my body or into my temple or into my life. So that sacredness that I held for these values wasn't preserved. So what I began to do was bring more attention to the process of consecrating those principles. And this is something that I go into in one of the courses within the Well called Principles of Well. And it's really looking at our deep internal states and seeing what we actually truly value and how those values are connected to our deeper internal soul level principles that we hold as ourself as a man. Now let's talk about sacred concentration for a moment. How might one consecrate a concept within the mind, you might ask? When you look at these two words of consecrate and concentration, what does it mean to truly concentrate? You know that we truly live into this life right now where there's so many different distractions, whether it be your business, whether it be women, whether it be food, whether it be things that you want to accomplish, and whatever the case may be on Instagram and social media and blah, blah, blah. So that lack of concentration has been deteriorated. Those termites have been eating at the integrity of your concentration. So what does it truly mean to consecrate that concept within your mind, within your man, within your mountain, within your maloca? Well, I can't say what that looks like for you, but I can share my way of going about it. I started defining what I felt as consecrating and why I felt it was truly important. For that, I went into what I know about sacred consecration, and ceremony. I went to the culmination of truth, which was really a culmination of my knowledge through experience, spiritual teachings, and the distillation process within my own self-compass. I started to see all the information, the knowledge that I gained from elders, that I gained from my life experiences, everything. I just put it all in a pot and started to go through my process of alchemy and distilling what was actually true there. So for me, that's how I derive truth. I take everything all together collectively, place it into a pot, alchemize it. So for me, consecration was the solid blessing and reverence for anything that I chose to respond to. Now the ceremony is the interaction and the relationship that begins to build between the object of focus and myself. I connect with it through my deeper set principles, one being consistency. For me, the definition is that it's the key to my ceremonial door. Consistent key, if you will. Now before that, I had to find a way to bless this space, my internal mind, body, and being. Not my spirit, my being. Before I could go on to build that relationship. So what I did was I created a tone for my temple. The tone being harmony. Now this is where you get the principle of harmony. So it wasn't really that I found a definition for that word. It was that I found the truth, and as I grew out from that truth, it gave me that tone of what I see now as harmony. Hope that makes sense. But with that deep connection to that frequency, I began to create rituals from the elements, because that's what I connected with most. And I found myself grounding before my trainings, practicing active presence as I cooked, lighting incense and applying essential oils that allowed for me more mentally and body clarity. Now, true visceral effects that happened within my body, these were actually true because it came from within all the way to without. Not just lighting some 99-cent incense from the store or a Bed Bath & Beyond candle. I began to feel the actions that were a part of my daily routine, bridging it slowly into ritual. Now in that ritual, I felt the level of authenticity. So this is why I bring up the levels of your rituality. And it's the same way on another level. If you have a car, right? The reason why you chose that BMW 3 Series or F Sport, whatever it is, you chose that because that is something that was resonant to a frequency within you. You reflect to that car and you connect to that car in a sacred way. We just don't look that deep. Because when you sit in that car, when you drive that car, it makes you feel something. But what if we shifted that around? What if we started creating our reality, creating the things outside because we created that feeling rather than that feeling being created within us? So when I say these 99-cent store incense or these Bed Bath & Beyond candles, I started to go for more authentic, ritualized things. So making essential oils, making incense, making candles, because that gave me a level of authenticity of connecting with the herbs, deepening my herbalism practice, and creating more harmony. So my harmony and temple is a reflection of the quality of things I receive into my body, and in that is the expression of one of my values, attention. So this level of detail is a part of the tone, the maloca and the reverence, not only for the space, but the quality in which it is kept. That meant a lot more to me, that connection between the oils, the candles, the ritualization, that authenticity, because I paid attention to that process. And because it became more whole and I understood that process, then I was able to allow it into my body, into my temple. So the blessing came with the intention to set that tone and keep that promise to uphold it. When I step into my maloca now, there's a harmony felt, heard, and promised back within the echoes of this man. Having this space within provided a clarity like no other. One that allowed for my principles to grow, to be nurtured and fully root within, as well as my other qualities of values. So I go into this a little bit more, as I said, in the course that I have in the Well called Principles of Well, where you can explore how to choose, plant, and embody your principles and values. In this routine, such as my movement, relationship building, and creative outlets, I came to see that this consecration was the reflection of how I cared to bring intention to this space and what I began to decipher from these echoes. By sitting in that ceremonial maloca, by sitting with self and listening to the echoes that were coming back, truly listening. The ceremonial fire started to show me the darkest parts of the maloca, and the mountain began to speak. So now let's step into reclaiming the flame. In all of these aspects, we look at mountain, mother, man, maloca, consecrate, grandfather, flame, change. This is a way. Finding your ceremony is to be done when your maloca is constructed, tuned to one. It is the connection in relation to how you come to change, acknowledging what you see in the flame. Can you detach from the mountain and become what you can? Can you let go of the package you've been carrying to try and protect all of them? Can you see the sanctity within the sacrifice and choose to be light? This is just one way a man chose to climb the mountain, deliver a seemingly pain-filled package that was himself into the flame, and accept the invitation of generations of blame. The honor to know this mountain of a man is in your name. Seeing the sanctity in this is to see how the anchor, the remembering, has served, and seeing deeper how now the anchor and the remembering is creating suffering. That to move on, he must heave and hoist, forgive and forget, so that he can continue to sail into the sunset. This is the gift of sacredness, of holding the ritualization to routine, continuing to walk into the maloca, light the flame, and burn it all away. Connecting to the fire is to your emotion, the identities and personal powers you have, and seeing them for what they've given. The generosity of the grandfather, ever forgiving, ever giving for that which you already have been, but have forgotten. To walk into the maloca is to forget you are a mountain, to forget you are a man, and receive that which is in the present. To remember to connect with the light, to keep it aflame. This is the ceremony within. It looks different with all, but to find yours, you can talk a particular walk. It may not always be literally to the top of a mountain. Sometimes it is, if you're brave and ballsy enough. But it can look like bringing consciousness to your routine, bringing lightness to your life. To start, you can check out a course I created for this, specifically called PrEP, Practices for Reclaiming Energetic Power. This allows for us to see in these energetic aspects of what our rituals are actually creating in those rhythms. How to see the walls of our malocas, how to connect deeper to the sense of our mountain, and how to reclaim that power and bring it into practice by preparing. Now, to go a bit further, take a trip up the mountain and construct your own maloca. Join Telos, a fellowship of men that are moving mountains, figuratively, physically, and quite literally. In this, we look at the energetic, the spiritual, the physical, the financial, and also the legacy that we are all building from within. How we connect like the Appalachian Mountains, of many mountains in line, holding steady, holding strong, but knowing when to release and sing our song. So brother, I say to you, find your mountain, build your maloca, sit in silence and commune with the man that is within. For you are a mountain of a man. If you like this episode and would like to explore more perspectives like this with me, as we get a bit more intimate and intricate look into our internal vibrations, be sure to tune in to next week's episode and subscribe for more. Until then, keep frequently speaking what you frequently see.